I'm Garrett McQueen.
I'm Scott Blankenship.
And this is TRILLOQUY, true and real stories from the fringes of classical music. You came back. Thank you for our first interview episode.
It's here.
So there's a really cool story surrounding my relationship with Marion, who is featured in this episode. So before I worked for American Public Media, the very first time I came to Minnesota was to sub with the Saint Paul Chamber Orchestra, one of the many orchestras I've subbed with across the country. I'm out here, Scott.
Yeah,
I'm on these streets, and at that performance, at one of those performances, Marion was in attendance, and he thought it was so dope that he looked up on the stage and saw somebody black. I mean, is there an experience like that you can speak to? Most of the folks at a orchestra concert are white, so maybe there was a white rapper that just, maybe, you just got it all off when Ice Cube came out, or Vanilla Ice. See, he's not even in my mind. I can't even think of, whatever year that was, 1990, 1991, I bet you just had a field day, didn't you?
What do you mean I had a field day? Say more.
I'm just trying to speak to the excitement a person feels by seeing themselves represented in a field where they usually don't see themselves.
Oh, that's a good point. I think the messenger really matters in an instance like this too. I don't think that Vanilla Ice was the best exponent. Let's go back a little deeper. The Beastie Boys were probably a more true representation of white people in hip hop.
So and you were there when the Beastie Boys came out, did you feel a certain kind of way the first time you saw that or heard of them? You were like, oh wow, white boys rap too.
Absolutely. Well, you see, the thing is that they were doing their own version of it. There was still electric guitars. The drum kit was real, and
so it was a rock band just with rap influence, right, is how you saw it.
Right. And, but yeah, I mean, that touches on something that's really key in your talk with Marion, is the fact that if you see someone that looks like you doing something, then in your mind you go, oh, okay, so it's cool for me to like this, or it's cool for me to be involved or moved by it or something like that.
And it turned out to be more than him just being pleasantly surprised. He reached out on social media once I actually moved here to Minnesota. He reached out and we hang out. We're homies. So, I thought, who better to be the first subject for TRILLOQUY, center the first conversation around Marion. And we talk about a lot of really really important things, including what it means to go to an HBCU. So that's
historically black college and universities, right?
Right. So was an HBCU, I mean, I'm sure an HBCU experience wasn't in your periphery, growing up, and when it came time for you to think about where you wanted to go to college. But did you even have a concept about historically black colleges and universities?
Not at all.
Why not? Why do you think that is?
I grew up in the Midwest, and I was also the first person in my entire family tree to go to college. And so there wasn't a framework to follow. I didn't know what was available. It was ignorance more than anything.
And it's really interesting because as important as HBCUs are to black communities, I wasn't pushed toward that tradition either, because my parents didn't graduate from college and couldn't really speak to the significance of college A versus college B or whatever, much less the significance of attending an HBCU. So in many ways, I feel like that, an opportunity was sort of systemically, if not generationally, taken from me, just because, in my family, the resources and the experiences weren't there to lead me to that.
Yeah, and resources.
And when I think about people who have gotten the opportunity to go to HBCUs, I think about, how lucky they are and how incredible it must be to, go to your classes every day or whatever, with teachers that can speak to your experiences or classmates that can speak to your experiences. It's so important. And it's even reach the the popular music conversation with Beyonce coming out with her homecoming documentary about her HBCU band styled performance at Coachella last year.
Yeah.
We're actually missing it right now. A broadcast of it here up here at our job. We're missing it to record this, but Beyonce know we love her, and I've already watched it. I'll probably 11 times now. I'll watch it again when I go home to make up.
But you went to some prestigious institutions as well, and on your own steam. Nobody was putting out extra money or slipping envelopes anywhere for you to get in. You did all of this on your own.
I can brag about going to USC all day, but the HBCU grads brag about going to those schools for a different reason. If someone wants to talk about how important they are because they went to Harvard or Yale or something, it's for different reasons than a person who is proud to be a graduate of FAMU or Howard or Fisk or one of these other black institutions. I'll mention that aren't just important because they're black, but important for among many reasons because they push forward black music. Some of the most important parts of musical blackness, if you will, comes from these HBCUs, as Beyonce laid out in her homecoming performance, her Coachella performance, and as Marion sort of lays out in our conversation, one of the many things we talk about.
Do you think things would have ended up drastically different for you if you did attend an HBCU?
Absolutely.
In what respect?
Things are shifting, but I would still say that, going to an HBCU isn't a orchestral path, or it wasn't the orchestral path that I was looking for. And I always get so careful when I have these conversations because I did not go to an HBCU because I wanted to be a classical musician. I didn't go to an HBCU because I had no concept of going to one, So in retrospect, and attending the conferences I attend and sort of facilitating some of the conversations surrounding race and classical music, lately the conversation of black kids interested in classical music as a career, is the possibility there for that to be an HBCU experience they have. And the opportunity, you can make anything out of anything, but, the world's great teachers, even the ones that are black, are not yet teaching at the HBCUs. And that's just one of the many challenges of studying music, at the historically black colleges and universities. So, yeah, I think I would have still been a musician of some sort, maybe a music teacher or outside of the whole genre of classical period. There's no way that my life wouldn't have been different, but here we are. I don't, and Scott, this is a conversation that I struggle with a lot within myself sometimes, because as thankful as I am for my teacher, my first teacher was black. Shout out to LaColy in Washington. But yeah, I just can't help but to think how different my college experience would have been at an HBCU. With all of that being said, my undergrad, my bachelor's degree comes from the University of Memphis, which, because Memphis is a mostly black city, the school is mostly black, at least the folks I was around. So it's not that I had a traditional PWI, predominantly white institution undergraduate experience, but I also just did not have that experience rooted and focused in blackness. And I'm oftentimes sorry that I didn't.
Well, let me ask you this, because another thing that I think is important that you touch on with Marion is access.
Yeah. That starts before the college years.
Right. So let's go all the way back. Did you start in grade school as a musician, or did you have to wait until junior high?
Yeah, I started playing the flute and the bassoon in seventh grade. So for me, that was middle school.
So what was your experience in grade school? Did you have any contact with music?
I was a singer. You want to hear me do some singing?
What do you want to lay out?
No, nothing today. No, but yeah, I was mainly a singer as a kid, and then when I hit middle school, that's when I transitioned into being an instrumentalist. I guess when my voice dropped a little bit it was game over.
So I had the same problem. So my question is, do you think that there would be more people of color in classical music if access was better, was shopped to these students rather than saying that you need to discover this on your own?
Unequivocally, but along with that conversation, I can't help but to ask myself, what would be, what would it look like if, Black kids in grade school, middle school, high school, and then leading up into the potential of going to HBCUs, how would all of music look different if we really had the resources in place for those kids? I think, when it comes to me personally, I think would I have gone into, music production, like so many people have become millionaires off of, just writing beats?
Sure.
Would I have stuck to my original plan of being a music teacher? It's more than just, diversifying this field that is white. When we talk about HBCUs, it's cultivating Black students from, our culture and from our voices and from our history. And there's no way to really lead to classical music the way we think about it and the way we see it today from that from that foundation. And it's one of my many challenges when I think back about my journey. And would that have been a better look for me? Would it have been, better for me to end up where I've ended up now? What do they say? If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be Christmas. Have you ever heard that one?
Every day would be into Dunkafest.
Okay. Well, so yeah, we could spend all day talking about that. But all in all, I think, the celebration and the maintenance of our HBCUs is highly important, amongst one of the most important things that we should be talking about these days, period.
What about the audience's relationships with these bands from HBCUs?
So the music is directly tied to the culture. So if you and I were to go to an HBCU Battle of the Bands today, I would probably know all of the songs. I would know everything they're playing because that music just sort of exists in the culture. I can go as far as to say that those HBCU bands are paying more attention to now than traditional classical music tends to. But with that focus comes a price. So many of those students, as it is today at the HBCUs, after they have that band experience, they either become band directors that can continue to propel that tradition and that culture into the future, which is very important, or they don't end up in music at all, at least not
Right.
professionally.
Yeah.
And that's a story for Marion. We talk about a lot. We talk a lot about how the post-collegiate resources aren't necessarily there. The options aren't there, and it's. I wonder what it's going to look like when we start to change that. And I'll bring up Beyonce again because she's pulled popular attention toward the HBCUs and the musical tradition that lives there. So maybe in the future there'll be something more for music graduates specifically from these institutions to move on to.
When you played the intro to Homecoming for me over at my house, and then we hit Lift Every Voice, and you said, "Now this is the Black national anthem."
Yeah, the Negro national anthem.
This was brand new on me,
And that was shocking to me, actually.
And why is that?
Because I just thought it was something that everyone knew.
Okay, so there's something we can break through.
Yeah.
What else do you hope that somebody would pull from not only watching Homecoming with Beyonce, but listening to your conversation with Marion Dooley?
That, again, what do we talk about on this podcast? True and real stories from the fringes of classical music. This is a classic music. This is a classical music performed in a classic style that a lot of people just don't know exists. and it's really important. It's important to the experience of countless HBCU football lovers, and thousands of musicians who made that possible, as well as dancers, as well as
It's
arrangers, writers,
amazing.
everything
Yeah.
that goes into that. It's an art form that we protect, because we don't want it to be gentrified, as it were.
Right.
But it
Right.
also deserves
Co-opted.
attention, co-opted, right?
Yeah.
But it deserves attention, and I was so glad to have Marion on to sort of talk about that. What else did we talk about? You're the one who did all the editing and button pushing on what I got there.
I was
We talked about gig culture.
Yeah, I was really interested to find out what his experiences were as far as playing live. And he's primarily a jazz man, right?
Right, a Jasmine.
So there is a lot of effort. There's a lot of work to put together what is going to be played at whatever event. And the fact that, wait until you guys hear the
And we're talking about the gigs at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just wait until you hear about how he was paid for one. It just blew my mind that even happens in the first place.
And that brings me once again back to the conversation of HBCUs. I've definitely played my fair share of BS gigs, but in my collegiate experience, I was given the tools to break out beyond that. And what I understand from Marion is that he was not afforded those tools. So again, I tiptoe so much when it comes to the conversation of HBCUs because I believe in them and I think they're really important. I wish, oftentimes I wish I had attended one. I just think we need to make sure that we're offering the resources to those students that they deserve, which in turn manifest in more options, especially when it comes to music students at these HBCUs.
As we get into the interview section here with Marion Dooley, I want to point out something about this podcast. It's a little bit different that I really love and I think really enhances the overall sound. You and I are in a studio when we have our talk leading up to the interview, but these are field interviews. Okay, so these are non-traditional spaces that the interviews are being conducted in a rather non-traditional way, facilitated by you. And I think that you really pull some honest answers that wouldn't be obtained in the confines of a studio.
Well, think about how uncomfortable the concert hall is for so many people versus a living room, and that's just I think it speaks to that.
Yeah.
Marion and I had whiskey in hand, and just kind of just talking like we would if the mics were off. Had my big fat gold chain around my neck, which actually is
that's how you lead in.
Is how we led in, talking about how, we black folk love to shine and bling as much as we can, both physically and musically. So check out my chat with Marion Dooley.
We like to show off. It's that, we haven't had it mentality. Not a lot of us have. So, especially professional athletes, they come from places that, they don't have a lot.
Yeah.
So you get, you can afford a $20,000 chain. Well, why not?
And I think about that when it comes to music because a lot of these parents can buy that $10,000 cello or that $10,000 bassoon, but the streets I come from.
I was just thinking about that. I was talking to a friend of mine today. She's actually an opera singer, and she's black. She's in D.C.
What's her name?
Nakia Varner.
Oh, shout out to Nakia.
Yeah, she's pretty dope, I must say. She said, she admitted the bubble she lives in there, black musicians and black people playing classical music and singing and stuff like that. But I was like, where I'm from, it's not really accessible. Even when I was coming up, I wanted to play all the instruments under the sun, but I didn't have access to these things.
But it did happen.
Yeah, it happened, but it's just not, for the most part, we don't have access to it. Who has? I want a new French horn. I don't have $3,000 to go out and blow on one.
Yeah.
But somebody does though.
Well, tell me how you went from like total non-access to where you are now, to where you do have access and you've been to school for music, and so what was that middle area where it turned into wow, I have access?
Well, it started when I got to college, basically. I mean, Well, let's go back to high school. So my last year of high school, we didn't have a band at the school I went to. So they offered free lessons. So I started taking sax lessons, and then I got to college and I kept playing. So then after college, I kept playing, and then I got kind of deeper into it after that, and then I discovered that, hey, I want to try something else, and then I got into different instruments and things like that. But the older I got, then I could semi-afford it. That's how. Well, as a kid, I didn't have, 12, 1500, 12, 1500, $2,000 to go spend on a new instrument.
Yeah, those school years, especially middle school, because where I'm from, it was seventh grade is some sixth, but most seventh grade when they started, and just that is such a pivotal moment. And you're making me think about some of my middle school teachers. Shout out to Ron Turner. I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for his beginning band class. Those need to be some of the best. That needs to be what we're putting the most focus on. Those teachers and those programs. That shout out to my air freshener. Sorry, those teachers that begin this road for so many people, but it seems like it's the middle school teachers we don't care about.
Well, because they took a lot of it out of the schools, especially in the inner cities, and
is that the case here in Saint Paul?
Yeah, in a lot of schools, especially here, it's not really band isn't really a thing. But the further out you go, you have these big, massive band programs, and they have all, just like the football team has a booster club, the band has a booster club. You don't have that in the city.
I mean, but it's true. It's real.
Yeah, and so, like I said, even when I started playing saxophone, I got laughed at. You
band nerd or whatever.
Exactly. But when I got to college, the band nerds were the ones that were like, you're in the band? What? Then I will come home and get laughed at.
That must be a non-Southern thing, because being in the band, I mean, the HBCUs, being in the band, that's one of the school's teams.
Yeah,
so we saw that in school. It wasn't a nerd thing.
We practiced more than the football team.
But you're still the nerd. You're still
my friends. So my friends would get mad. They would not necessarily get mad. So I get back to the dorm room after practice.
Yeah.
I'm like, where'd you guys go? We went to the movies. Oh, but you couldn't wait. No, you were at band practice. So I missed out on stuff. But, it was worth it. It was band. It was fun.
But see, that's why you need to... See, I would hang out with the band kids. So we were getting out of, practice together, and then we would go to the movies or whatever.
But see, they were a little bit different. My experience was totally different than like the typical band kid.
Right.
I didn't have band growing up.
I see.
Yeah, so,
So it was okay. So anyway, so back to college. It was the band folks that was drinking and smoking and carrying.
They did the most.
And you wasn't down with that.
I wasn't down with that back then.
Good for you, because I was doing all that.
Now I will say, my freshman year we went to Houston, and we stayed at, I think it was a Ramada, and I got drunk off a whole bottle of Boone's Fire.
Okay, let's get back to the music, because you wildin'.
I'm just saying, but so that was my first,
But
real,
that's your band experience, right?
But
That's
I
a
wasn't,
part of it.
so, for me, it was a lot different, my band experience.
But what was your goal? What were you looking for in being in the band and studying music in college?
Back then, I don't know, because it was still new to me. I didn't really get into jazz until my senior year of high school.
That just was not something you
were. It wasn't, I grew up in a house with, with soul, and I listened to hip hop and R&B and all of that stuff.
But all that comes from jazz,
I know, but when you're not really taught about, Coltrane and Bird and all those people, I knew Johnny Taylor was, because that's who my daddy listened to, but I didn't know, I really hadn't been introduced to Bach and all these, classical and jazz at the same time. So,
but what was your goal for even studying music in college? Like, let's say your second or third year, you're still doing music. Were you trying to be a teacher? Were you trying to be a performer?
No. So what happened was I was going to be I was a double major at one point. I was a music education and business major, but then I left school and came back, and I just stuck to business.
Yeah,
which a big part of me is a regret, because music is such a big part of me, and I wish I would have just stuck to that. But the biggest thing I wanted to be a performance major. We didn't have that, and if I could, there are things that I would do differently.
And remind me what school you went to
Langston
again?
University.
Yeah, and And that's a discussion that me and my people have been having a lot when I go to conferences and work on these different committees. Is when are we going to get these performance-based programs, these orchestral training programs at the HBCUs? I mean, think about the experience it would be to dig in deep into William Grant Still and Florence Price and these other black composers at an HBCU. That would be profound.
It would be, but when I was an undergrad, it was all about marching band and concert band and jazz band, and those things were an afterthought.
I'm forgetting that's the case.
Yeah, they were an
most of
afterthought.
those, yeah.
Now, I spent 2 years at a community college here when I came home.
Uh-huh.
That community band / concert band
Here in Saint Paul.
Oh, no, it was in Bloomington. I went to Normandale.
Okay.
Out in Bloomington, and that was one of the best musical experiences I ever had. There were older people. When I say older people, they could barely hear you talk.
Yeah.
You say, "Hey, Bob, what?"
Shout out to them. Shout out to them, though.
But you play the wrong note, and they would tell you about it. And I'll never forget. We had an older gentleman named Percy Hughes who played alto, and I knew a little bit about Percy, but Percy was like the kindest, one of the kindest people I've ever met. And years later, I got to know about who Percy really was, and he was kind of like a jazz pioneer, a black jazz pioneer in the Twin Cities here. And I was like, man, I was in the same group with this guy. And it just changed me musically. So when I went back to school, it was a lot different, how I viewed musicianship and how they viewed it, and a lot of black bands, it's screaming and being loud. It's not like, being precise. You can still have, be loud, but be good. You're doing it.
You're really hitting on something that I wasn't, prepared to really think about, but any black musician who has any proximity to that culture knows that to be true to some extent.
Yeah.
But some of these HBCUs sound really great.
Oh, no,
I mean, like FAMU is legendary.
Yeah. You have Jackson State, who the first time I ever heard Jackson State play,
yeah,
I was like, it was like I felt it like all in my chest. I was like, wow. And it's crazy because I watch a lot of football, so I watch college football, and I'll hear there's a song you've heard Neck talking out the side.
Of course, yeah.
So that's like a black band,
yeah,
black college band
standard.
staple. Yeah,
that's our Beethoven 5.
Yeah, pretty much. So I hear Auburn's band playing it, right, and you're like, it sounds good. Like technically, it sounds great, but there's no soul behind it. There's no like.
And that's the component that you think is missing in the teaching of it.
Well, no, just.
Or just in the general culture of it. It's just more about the loud and the.
Yeah, because here's the thing: if there's certain songs that need that fire behind them.
Yeah.
There's certain songs that when you hear a white band playing them, like you hear a PWI, and you're like, you shouldn't be playing that song right now. But you hear
PWI, predominantly white institution.
Sorry about that. But yeah, you hear them play certain things that we traditionally play, and you're like, that just doesn't sound good. It sounds good, but it's not like. It's not like you know it should or how it should sound,
And you just accept it anyway.
Not really, because I talk about it.
Man, this is really something for me to be thinking about this, because that reminds me a lot of my high school marching band experience. By the time I was a junior, senior in high school, it was a predominantly black school. Like Craigmont was a black school, but the culture of the band just was not yet rooted in that tradition. So, when we would go play some of these, schools in the hood, their bands, based on our training and what we're taught good music to be, quote unquote, says that they just didn't sound as good. But it often looked like they were having a lot more fun.
Now, right? That I will say, we had a lot of fun doing what we did. And I can say that I was lucky to have, a band director and assistant band directors that like really valued the sound. But we still had fun doing it. Like it was fun, And what you said reminds me of what was the Nick Cannon movie?
Drumline. Shout out to Drumline.
Yeah,
when
Dr. Lee,
yes,
had him playing Fight of the Bumblebee. And
but he also had a play in Coming to America, so he was trying to be culturally,
he was, but
it was from the older school in an 18-year-old drummer's head, who has yet to marry Mariah Carey.
This is true. or Zoe
And divorce.
Saldana in the movie, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get it, but at the same time, I mean, and I try not to look at things through that lens. Like, it doesn't sound good because I know, you know, sometimes, I mean, I've heard pop records that like have all kinds of inaccuracies in them.
Of course,
but
yeah.
you still feel it. Like if you go listen to the Police, you know, I'll Be Watching You. There's a messed up chord all through it, but they didn't correct it, and it was like that's the beauty.
But
of
that's
it.
just the part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of hold on.
Shout out to the.
I don't want
Snow
to
truck.
give Scott that headache. And this is like this street right here is like a major truck route.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to sleep during the day. I got to be up all night hosting classical music, and the 18-wheeler from Whole Foods is coming through here. It seems like it should be
Yeah.
anyway. You know, with these black bands, quote unquote. Well, and it seems like even calling them black bands is accurate.
Oh yeah, no, because everything's black about them.
I mean, of course, there's, you know, it seems like there's always the white guy in the band, and he getting it too.
Oh, we had a couple.
He getting it too.
Look, we see, you know, black bands. We had crab names. When you come in, you're a crab. You know, your first year band student.
Yeah, which was taught to us through Drumline,
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah, and so that was a real thing. But you know, we had names. So I was Red from Friday. So every time somebody be like, Red, what's wrong? I have to stand up and say, my grandmama gave me that chain.
Hey, you do remind me.
Yeah.
And
So-
we were talking about chains. I'll never tuck my chain.
I know you don't, but no. We had a couple white guys.
Yeah.
And one of them was Shaggy, because he looked like Shaggy.
Oh yeah,
He looked from
off of
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby Doo. Yeah.
But you know, it's like
But it's the culture and the tradition and everything about it is just black. But beside the fact that maybe a black person didn't invent the mellophone, you know, the piccolo, but
we made it our own. And the thing I like about it is it's like when they come into that situation, into our situation, they have no choice but to assimilate. You know, they have to, because it's not like, you know, you're not walking into the band room at OU. But I know a lot of people who came from chorus style bands though.
and
then when they got to Langston, they had to switch.
I wonder, did they have a problem switching, or they were good?
I don't
they were
think they
Gucci.
really had it. I don't think
Because
they
there's
really,
choreography.
Yeah.
There's, you know.
Yeah, I once wheezed through a whole homecoming halftime show. Yeah, I'm asthmatic, so.
Oh well, shout out to everybody out there playing the instrument that has asthma.
Yeah.
Y'all the heroes.
Yeah, I wanted to pass.
Especially the brass players and the piccolo players. You know, it takes more breath to use the piccolo than the tuba.
Yeah,
And I was on the piccolo line.
I'm good. I'll never forget, we played at the Honda Battle of the Bands in 05. And I had never been in front of that many people in my life. It were like, and there was an ice storm the day before, so they moved it. It was supposed to be on Saturday, moved it Sunday. There were still like 60,000 people at the Dome. And
Because that's what you do.
I know, but you come out, your heart's beating. You know, you don't want to mess up and be on the big screen and be the one falling.
So that just gets your asthma going anyway.
Yeah. I mean, my section leader was over here about to pass out. I'm over here having, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a lot of great memories from being in marching band in college.
Man, it's something how we got there. So, you know, marching band throughout college, college graduation day.
Yeah.
What did you think the next little time would look like? Did you think music would be a part of it?
I didn't know, because I had kind of, when I got home from school, I had kind of stopped playing, because I didn't know exactly what.
You just didn't have that
the drive to keep playing.
or what the next step would even look like.
Yeah, and then I was like, I'm gonna go to an open mic. Mind you, I had really never done improvisation or anything like that.
So like being a teacher or being any other kind of performer never really was.
No, it was like, you graduate from college, go get a job.
Yeah.
And now I look back, I really wish music would have been the focus, because you know some people are good with, you know, being, you know, with their hands. They like to build stuff.
Yeah.
They like to, you know, work on cars. I would much rather, you know, make music all day, or you know, teach lifestyle. Not saying that I don't think I could be a band director, but teaching.
But there's so much more, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, teaching on the side and performing, that type of thing. But you know, when I got home from school, I got a job at Walgreens.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but for me it sounds like you're saying that, you know, just the opportunity, or at least the option, was just never really made clear to you in college.
Well, no, even growing up though, like, you know, the extent of it for us was, this is back when people actually had to know how to rap.
Yeah.
I want to rap. And so for me, hip hop was like the entry into music for me, if you get what I'm saying.
I mean, for so many of us, but I still think I had a concept of like what an orchestra was, and I guess I didn't realize that you could make like a living off of it. But I guess you're right, because of course we would have a different perspective on that from someone whose parents were in an orchestra, or so my siblings, are gonna, when they have kids, they're going to have a perspective on a career in music, especially classical music that we didn't have growing up, for sure. I wonder, I wonder if that could. I wonder what that's going to do for classical music, or music education or whatever in the future. Just the fact that it's in the periphery for Black people more than it was even for us.
Yeah, no. Like, I'll try to encourage my kids to do whatever. If you want to be a writer, you can be a writer. If you want to play, and if you feel like you want to be a world-class pianist, we'll make it happen. But growing up, like I said, I wasn't given the option, and I didn't really create a space for me to do these things until I became an adult, because I had a choice.
And you do have kids, so I mean, so you don't say that as a hypothetical.
Yeah, no, like if hey Dad, I want to play guitar. Okay, well we'll get you a guitar. To me, it's being encouraging and giving them that option. Like, if you want to do it, we'll make a way for you to do it.
Yeah.
And and I love my mom and dad, but it just didn't happen, and that's fine.
So let's fast forward to November of 2017. I come here to Minnesota, to Saint Paul, for the first time to sub with the SPCO, and you come to that concert.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
So a friend of mine plays flute in the SPCO.
Oh, Alicia's your homegirl.
Yeah,
Oh, shout out to Alicia.
Yeah,
Second flute.
So Alicia gives me
SPCO.
so she just happened to be like, you want tickets tonight? I was like, sure. I don't normally turn down tickets. If I got time, if I have the time, I'll go. And she usually has pretty nice seats. So it's
Yeah. How do you know her?
Just around, and we met
Off the streets, just
pretty much,
on the streets, whatever.
But she's real cool. Like, she's pretty.
Yeah, she is.
Dope.
Yeah, she got me on with SPC. Yeah, I'm
And
here
what's
for her. I need
crazy?
to have her
So
on.
I got there. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't know you were performing that night.
So you
I
saw a
didn't
brother
even know.
on stage.
I was like, wait a minute. I think we were Facebook friends at that time, so I knew who you were, but I hadn't seen you in person.
And I don't know how we were Facebook friends.
I think just one of those things. Oh, we played music and
yeah.
So, but it was dope to see you up there. So,
Well, thank you.
And,
But what does that mean? I mean,
like,
go further
it
with
was
that.
to see somebody who looks like you.
Yeah.
On stage playing.
Yeah.
I kind of bug out when I go to a concert and I see like Black musicians playing things, because I'm used to it. I mean, I was in a concert band, and I'll never forget, we were in rehearsal and we're talking about some fundraiser, and all I hear,
Concert band in college.
No, this was here. It was like
Okay. Oh, right.
band.
Oh, yeah.
And I hear like somebody talking at the back of my head. Let's make sure we're not playing any rap music. And I feel like it was the most racist thing they could have said at that time. So I feel like we're not always welcome in these spaces. And to see, so when
Here we go. Yeah.
So no, I'm saying, so when I saw you up there, I was like, oh, that's dope, and he's getting it, and he's and I feel like I walk in, and I get the old white folks look at you like, what are you? I'm sitting next to like a 90-year-old couple, and it's just me.
And they were side eyeing you.
Kinda, but then there have been times where, like, during intermission they'll talk to you, and then they're like, oh, he's actually kind of cool. So then
Yeah.
Yeah. But it takes for that to happen. Most of the time, they can be ignorant. I had taken Alicia had gotten me tickets when they had a performance on Summit. There was a big church on Summit.
Okay. That's right over here,
Yeah, it's further down. It's like right before you get to Victoria, but it's like right in there.
Okay.
So I took my daughter, and so we're leaving out, and this old white lady walks up to her and goes, "Hi, I'm so glad to see you here. And we're like, and she looked at me and I looked at her and she was like, oh, I don't know you. She was, no. And it's like they do things like that. Like they don't expect us to be in these spaces. And it's not, like they can move within any space that we have and we accept them. I mean, whether the white folks at the hip hop show, that's fine. You got white folks singing R&B, that's cool. But we move into a space that you think that we shouldn't be in. And, we get the side eyes and the snarky comments and, the things like that. And I can only imagine what you've gone through because, I mean, you're a pro's pro. You've been doing this for, forever. And, you probably played some everywhere. So you've probably experienced some of everything. So I can only imagine.
That kind of, it kind of hurts my feelings to hear you say that.
Why?
It's not that I don't disagree with any of it because I've definitely, felt that even, as someone on the stage, not even in the audience. But to hear it from, a predominantly audience perspective, just it seems like it makes it a little more real or something.
No, it is. I mean, even a couple years back, I went to Orchestra Hall in Minneapolis, and we had front row tickets. I'll never forget.
For the record, I don't ever suggest sitting on the front row of an orchestra concert.
But these were free tickets.
Okay,
and this
yes,
was
fine,
they were free.
Fine.
I wasn't going to turn them down.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and the guy next to us. I mean, I was on a date, and we looked really nice that night. We both got super dressed up. This was a date, date night.
Yeah.
We're looking fly.
And I'm sure that really impressed her,
Yeah.
taking her to the orchestra front row.
She had on a black dress. I had on, I had on my little suit.
Yeah, come on.
And this guy looks like he just got done cutting grass. Smelled like it too. But he's looking at me like I shouldn't be here.
Damn.
So anyway, the musicians come out on stage and there's this black girl playing, and I was like, what? She's not in the program. I think she might be like a sub. I'm not sure. And I'm in my mind, I'm bugging out because I'm like, oh my God, like this isn't something that you expect to see. I've been to some performances in my life, but when you go to a place like a space like that, you don't expect to see that. So I mean, it was pretty dope. I mean, but you had to deal with other people's preconceived notions about you, despite the fact that you're dressed nice and. But that's just life in general. I mean, I feel like
So the orchestra hall is not separate from.
No, it's like
the outside.
It's kind of it's representative.
A microcosm.
It's a microcosm of society, especially here in Minnesota. And with everything that's going on, with the barbecue Becky's and all that. It makes it hard. You become self-conscious in these spaces because you don't want to be the black person
to cut up and end up on YouTube.
But then again, you still have to deal with the passive aggressiveness, the side eyes and the looks and all that good stuff. But I mean, once the music starts, it's pretty much a wrap. I mean,
So why is it? Because when I was really getting myself together and in school, especially when I was at USC, grooming myself to, get into the profession. Of course, most of my classmates, colleagues were white. But for you, your collegiate experience musically is so different, but it's like that's where it cuts off in that pipeline. You're done with the music at that point. You have the pipeline in the black communities that lead you to these sublime musical experiences in college, with the marching bands and all that. I mean, think about the drum majors for a minute. I mean, that's some choreography. That's art, But that's where it ends unless you somehow go on to be one of those band directors, high school or collegiately. But on the other side, me at my schools, and my programs, mostly white people sitting around me. There were so many different options made available, set before us. I didn't even really think about becoming an orchestral musician professionally until later down the line because there were so many other things. You could teach. You could be someone who works as a liaison with schools. I guess it was a lot of education focus, but I even had it in my experience to know of people or groups to go solo. Like I knew who Imani Wins was in high school. So and I thought that was cool and something that it would be incredible to do. Now I'm in radio. That was something that just was presented to me. My point is, on the non HBCU sides, so many different options are laid before you, and I just don't think it's right that it's not there on the other side.
I think it depends on where you went to school at, because
yes, I'm not saying all HBCU
yeah,
programs, music programs,
when I
are
was
trash.
when I was at Langston, we didn't have, it was either you were a music education major or you couldn't major in music. There wasn't even a minor option. But then you go to Howard and they have Howard has a really good they have things going on there, or you go to even FAM or Bethune where it might be an option. I know a few people who've graduated from these HBCUs and they're still performing.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I'm saying
it's harder, or it's not. The path isn't as clear. You know what I mean? So, I almost gave up after college, so I almost stopped playing.
But you're still going. You're still playing. I see your Instagram videos and stuff.
For me, music it's just a tool. I like to learn, so if I keep my brain going,
do you ever see it? Do you ever see a reality in which you're kind of doing that as your main thing?
I wish. I think about it. I've actually considered going back to school. I just don't know how I pay for it, but I've thought about it. Like talking to my friend Nakia out in DC. She went to Peabody and she keeps telling me, well, there are these programs you can do, and it's always a thought, because I clock into work every day and I'm like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to be here? My mind is always somewhere else when I'm at work. So yeah.
When you're at your jobby job,
My
your
job,
day job.
at the jobby job. My brain is always somewhere else.
Shout out to everybody just working a job, because that's a big part of being a musician. I remember when I was in college, I took a job interview at some restaurant, and he looked at my resume and saw that I was studying music, and he was trying to make a joke, but it was true. I sat down at the interview and he goes, "Well, I see you're a music major, so I'm sure you have service industry experience."
Wow.
I know he's trying to flame a little bit, but it's true. Shoot, most of the folks I were around, we were working while we were in school, and even while we were working in music.
If you think about the term starving artist,
but see, I was never going to be one.
Yeah, but there's always some truth to that, because there are always those people out there where it's like the music is pretty much all they have. They're trying to support themselves. They work 3 jobs and they gig. They're playing and they're teaching. They're doing all these things.
But I'm not. I decided that I was not going to be a starving artist, which meant there were times when I was playing in an orchestra, like for real, and on the radio, and bartending, when I was down in Knoxville, and I was driving myself crazy, but I wasn't going to let music be blamed for any financial trouble in my life. I was just gonna be on top of that.
Well, that's why I grin and bear it. I go to work every day, because I know I have a steady paycheck. But I can go home and practice, or if I decide I want a gig, or if I want to record, I can do all these things. But I have a steady, I have that peace of mind that I have a paycheck. But then that paycheck also it's like, what do you do to get that paycheck? Sometimes, because look, I work in customer service, and I want to cuss people out on the phone all day long.
There should be, how the military has purple stars? There should be that for the service industry, because some of the stuff that straight up, I'm not talking about being a bartender, waiting tables. I'm talking about working at the department store. Those people put up with some stuff because people are nuts. I've started to watch the public freakouts on YouTube. They tickle me.
Well,
I'm sure you've seen them in real life, IRL, as they say.
It's not even. I talk on the phone all day. So when you talk to people about dishwashers and chemicals,
it seems like they wild out a little more on the phone.
You call on a Saturday. What can I do for you on a Saturday? It's a Saturday.
But musicians have to work a lot of the time outside of music to maintain, and what if we didn't have to do that?
I mean,
I'm great now.
But in other countries, like you go over to Europe, there are people who that's their thing. Music is their thing.
Yeah.
But then again,
even in Asia, from childhood, and there are discussions about the ethics of that, but from childhood being raised up in.
But they also treated, like in Europe, music. The arts are treated differently than they are here.
Yeah.
Here it's get a job, go.
And then don't even talk about the complications of like the different communities, different
and
demographics.
So, but here it's they're not appreciated. Think about in the back in the day, the 30s and 40s, when black artists would leave here and go over there.
Yeah, because Josephine Baker, all those people.
They would because they were appreciated and they would stay. It's not it's like somebody asks you to come play, right? Hey, can you come play this gig?
Yeah,
for exposure.
You saw what I put on Instagram.
Yeah, and drink tickets.
Exposure.
Yeah, like you know how many gigs I played for drink tickets.
That's a
drink tickets.
That's a shame. You had me almost about to cuss.
And I don't even drink when I'm on a gig. I don't drink.
Of course.
So I give the tickets away.
Well, I shouldn't say of course. A lot of the greats were doing more than drinking.
Yeah,
Duke Ellington, all them people. Well, I don't know if it was him specific.
I know if I can't. I don't want to.
Anyway, the point is they're not writing a check.
Yeah, and that's but they expect that though. Like oh, you're just the entertainment. But if we ask them to go to their job.
Would never.
For free. Can you come into work and just we'll pay you we'll give you a free lunch every day.
But I don't know if I played a free gig, I was actively playing it as a gift and not for exposure, blah blah blah. I mean, but maybe I'm sure you're talking about jazz or.
Well, no, I just recently got asked to play an engagement party, and lady asked me, well, how much do you charge? And I told her it wasn't a lot. It was like $75.
For how long?
Like an hour.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
I mean, you want me to come up with a playlist, and then you want me to learn something.
Well, that's why you need to. Well, I would suggest just having something in your pocket. Like if I had to do a recital next month, there's just some things that I will always just be able to.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I got all kinds. I have things I can pull from.
Yeah.
But when you want me to learn something like...
But anyway, you told her $75 and she never called you back.
Never heard back. Wait, so then I get a call on the day of. I'm with my kid. I'm like, I'm not... No, you had 2 weeks to let me know something. You asked me how much I was charging. I told you. I'm sorry. And never heard anything back. But it's like you expect...
It's just like the art isn't respected.
Yeah, but you're not going to not pay the caterer or the DJ. I'm not there. I'm just not there. I can make music at home all I want.
And it's great. I do it all the time.
Exactly. I don't have to leave the house. I don't have to spend, burn gas. So you get what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you this. I put $1 million on the table. Okay. There are not actually $1 million on the table, but
I wish.
I put $1 million on the table. Are you going to become a full-time musician? Is that what's going to happen?
Well, I mean,
is that the barrier?
It's like my needs. Like I have bills. I have rent. I got a car note. I have insurance.
$1 million is going to take care of all of that for years.
If you wrote a check right now, it's a wrap.
And it's a wrap. Like
it's
music would be.
Oh, music. Yeah, I'd be at home. Look, all I would do is create. That's all I would do. That's all. But I don't have that. That's the pipe dream. That's the ultimate. That's the goal.
So, what do we have to do to break down that barrier between music and the life we have to live? I mean,
I think when
people make it.
Yeah, they do, but it's so hard. I mean, I've been in bands around town. I mean, there was a time.
So it's not like you're a scrub. You are playing.
Yeah, like there was a time when I gigged almost every weekend. We were rehearsed on Sundays, but then we might play two gigs in a week. And I'll never forget. We played at the Acadia, over at right off with the West Bank, in U of M, University of Minnesota. We got $6. This was an 8-piece band. We got $6
$6.
Yes. We played another gig downtown Saint Paul, and they gave our our drummer who ran the band a check. It equaled out to like $5-6 a person. We're like, just keep it. What? So I've been there. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm at the age now where I don't need to gig. Like, if you call me,
if that's what it is.
Yeah, if that's what it is, I don't need it. You know, I can go home and practice all I want, do what I want to do, and not have to worry about, okay, I just spent more in gas than I did than I made, and it shouldn't be like that, you know. Because the first thing I'll ask you, do you draw a crowd? I played a gig one night. The power went out. There was this big storm, and we played over south of Minneapolis. And I'll never forget, they had like this big 200-some-year-old tree, trunk about as wide as this door, and it's swaying in the wind. And the power goes out. We wait 2 hours. They go get generators and all kinds of stuff, plug us up. We played basically by candlelight that night. But he said that he couldn't pay us because he couldn't charge people at the door because the power was out. But there was a nice crowd, and they were still selling, but you're still selling beer and alcohol, but we can't get paid. So I mean, I think once musicians are like, we've had enough of this mess.
So the musicians need to. Oh, you're putting some onus on the musicians. They need to stop playing these free gigs.
Yeah,
they need to let people know.
I'm not 17. I don't need to come play.
But that's what they're going to do. They're just going to get the niece. So whoever who's 16, 17, you know, and I'm sure they can play brilliantly.
Terrible.
Well, yes, I hear you, but I don't know if it's not a little dangerous to say that this is on the musicians. I mean,
I'm not saying that it's on musicians. I'm saying that if we got together and decided, you know what, we've had enough of this, and you started turning gigs down that you knew weren't benefiting you in any way. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you want me, and I've had gigs. So then the same gig I told you about, that I never heard back from the lady. Do you need a sound system? So then say I would have had to lug all that equipment,
right? Sound
system, instruments, mics, all that, and then so $75 is a big deal to you. You know, that's all I'm saying. I just feel like it's like when you see NBA players strike. You know, professional athletes go on strike, right? Because they feel like, I put my body on the line, you can pay me. And then there's some concessions made. I feel like if musicians were like, you know what, I'm not doing that, then I think things might change.
But you are getting some legit, like, not everybody is clowning you, right?
Yeah, I mean, not everybody clowns, but I just feel like and mind you, I haven't gigged like I used to. Like, I kind of stepped away from it. But when I was doing it, there were times like I got this summer, I played a couple gigs, you know.
Well, we got to get you back.
I'm working on that, man. I'm working on that.
Okay, so if somebody, so first of all, what instruments or what are you available and able to do?
Right now, it's sax and French horn. So those are the two.
Okay, so sax and French horn. Yeah. If someone wants to give you a sax or French horn gig, how can they get a hold of you? Your Instagram?
My Instagram right now it's HugLife14.
Ain't nothing. Hug Life 14. Life. I agree. We got to hug Life.
You know where it came from? You ever watch the Boondocks?
Of course. Okay.
So Riley had the tattoo.
Oh, Hug Life.
He had the tattoo, but when he took a shower, it said Thug Blood.
Yeah.
But then when he took the shower, it said Hug Boo.
So you did Hug Life.
I did Hug Life.
But I kind of like that on the feel good side of the Hug Life. You know. Yeah. Anyway, Instagram at Hug Life 14.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much. This was great.
Oh, we're done already?
Yeah.
All right.
It's actually Hug Life 1914. So if you're interested in contacting or booking Mr. Marion Dooley, that's how you can find him. Instagram, Hug Life 1914.
That's got to be one of the most inventive handles for Instagram that I've heard
Yeah,
of to date.
It's very clever. When I sat down and had that chat with Marion, you hadn't yet met him, but you have met Marion now.
In the
so,
meantime,
yeah. I'm sure you enjoy getting an even more real life perspective on some of the stories that he told, particularly being paid in meal tickets. That's some ish, ain't it?
That's I was blown away by that part, and plus, just what he went through to feel comfortable in various spaces.
Well, he's a great friend of mine, and we're gonna have many more conversations in the future on and off mic. But
You want to talk about Opus 2?
yeah, so next week. You're going to get to hear the interview I did with the hosts of a podcast called Classically Black. This is the first in a set of 3 interviews that I conducted while in Detroit at the annual Sphinx Conference, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that next week.
Be sure to come back for Opus 2 of TRILLOQUY.
See y'all.
Bye.